Alakazam's Community Day is happening this Sunday in Pokemon Go, and we're all wondering what this exclusive Community Day move can be. Well, it looks like Germany spilled the beans. Reddit user Ru100 noticed that in the German translation of the Community Day event, it was revealed that Alakazam is going to be learning the attack Counter. Now, while we weren't expecting Alakazam to get a fighting type attack for its Community Day move, anyone with rough knowledge of PvP knows that Counter equals a Pokemon basically becoming meta out of nowhere. Counter is the best fast move in PvP, hands down, and could very likely make Alakazam insane. Now, for those of you that are out in the raid scene, you're like, ooh, what does this do for Alakazam? Yeah, it really doesn't do anything for Alakazam in raids. I mean, Alakazam's definitely yesterday's news when it comes to raids, right? But PvP. And we do have the Go Battle League coming up this Friday, March 13th. So Alakazam, could this thing be hot in the PvP meta? And the answer is a little hot. I wouldn't go too crazy about Alakazam, but it's definitely looking pretty good. So as far as the new wins that Counter Alakazam is picking up compared to old Alakazam, we are now getting Registeel, Bastiodon, and Skarmory. We're also picking up Dark-type Pokemon as well, such as Zweilous, Alolan Muck, Scrafty, and Shiftry. So that's all pretty good for Alakazam. Now, if you guys are aware, Alakazam is the Psychic-type Pokemon that can counter other Psychic-type Pokemon because it has Shadow Ball access. Well, now it's a Psychic-type Pokemon that can counter Steel types and Dark types and other Psychic-type Pokemon at the same time. It's a little bit more flaky in the Psychic-type countering department, but now it's got this whole new role to it, which is pretty interesting. And then, of course, for those of you that like to participate in Silph Cups, yeah, there's a whole long list of extra wins that Alakazam is now getting, including, but not limited to, Skuntank, Alolan Raticate, we're getting Bibarel, Wormadam, Steelix, Empoleon, Escavalier. I honestly don't know every single win that Alakazam is now picking up. I'm pretty sure we'll get a better idea of this win list once we have a Silph Cup that actually uses Alakazam. And you can definitely bet that if Alakazam is included in a Silph Cup after this, it's going to be a pretty relevant Pokemon now that it has both Shadow Ball and Counter on the same moveset. Now, I bet some of you are sitting back at home thinking, okay, Ryan Swag, it's a Psychic-type Pokemon that has Counter. So it's a Psychic-type that's doing fighting-type things. That's basically like Medicham or Deoxys Defense Forme, right? Well, using PvPoke, I can basically show you the differences between Alakazam and the two other psychic types that do fighting type things. So here on PvPoke, you can go to Matrix Battle, and then I just selected the custom meta group. So this isn't the entirety of the Great League meta, but it's 36 Pokemon, so I think that's enough for a simple analysis here, right? And I compared them against Alakazam, Shadow Alakazam, because obviously there has to be a difference with the Shadow form getting that higher attack, right? Deoxys Defense Forme, and Medicham. And this is in the one shield situation. So down here, I can just scroll along and let you guys know who's winning what and who's losing what. If the number is below 500, that means that it's a loss. If the number is greater than 500, then that means that it's a win. So moving right along, we can see that we get our first win here, and that is against Cresselia. Cresselia is something that Deoxys Defense Forme and Medicham cannot tolerate. Both Alakazams can take out Cresselia. And the reason why Alakazam can do this and they can't is because Alakazam has Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is super effective to Cresselia. These two Pokemon getting walled for days. Alakazam bringing the heat with the Shadow Ball. Moving along, we also pick up a win here against Frostlass. Frostlass is not appreciating our Fire Punches. Rock Slide coming from Deoxys-D. Not fast enough for the Frostlass, but that Fire Punch bringing the heat once again. We're also picking up a win against Lantern. Deoxys Defense Forme cannot tolerate Lantern, cannot KO it fast enough. That water gun damage is just beating it down. Alakazam, however, Alakazam's taking care of it with that counter damage. It's just that good. Next up, we're rolling up to another huge win, which is against Meganium. Meganium is the ultra-thick Grass-type Pokemon, anti-meta champion Grass-type Pokemon, beats the Deoxys Defense Forme, right? But does not beat the Alakazam. Both normal form and shadow form, the Fire Punch is just a little bit too hot for Meganium here. And then here we can see the shadow form's first divergence from the normal form, picking up a win against Melmetal. So that extra attack stat, helpful for the counter damage to take out Melmetal. Alakazam, normal form, isn't beating it down fast enough. So Shadow Alakazam right now seems to be the same exact thing as normal Alakazam, but is getting an additional win here. Then we have Alolan Muck, something Deoxys Defense Forme is not beating, and our Alakazams are beating. Then we also have Toxicroak. Toxicroak is something Medicham can't handle, but Alakazam can. Then we got another grass type champion here, Venusaur. The two other psychic fighting type Pokemon, they're not doing so hot, but Alakazam's doing hot as heck with that fire punch, right? And then we have another divergence of the Shadow Pokemon versus the normal Alakazam. The Shadow form is picking up a win against Vigoroth. Once again, probably hitting a counter break point that normal Alakazam cannot reach, being able to just pummel down the Vigoroth faster than it can pummel it down. Now I know what you're thinking, oh Ryan Swag, that's just the one shield situation. That's not every single situation. Well, we can also look at the two shield situation. I mean, pretty easy, right? You just click two shields. So yeah, with the two shield situation, I'm not going to exhaust all the differences between the Medicham and the Deoxys and the Alakazam here, because Alakazam is a more fragile Pokemon, so naturally it will be performing a little bit worse in the two shield situation compared to them. So that's pretty expected. However, this does help us needle down the differences between Alakazam and Shadow Alakazam. First, we can see that there is a loss for Shadow Alakazam against Bronzong. However, if you click on it, and you pull up the battle itself, you can see that Shadow Alakazam is only losing by 1 HP on the Bronzong. So if that Bronzong is deficient in IVs, it doesn't have these perfect IVs here, it has 1 less stamina, well, it's going down to the Shadow Alakazam. Then we see yet another divergence in the Jirachi matchup. Normal Alakazam is losing to Jirachi, but Shadow Alakazam is now beating Jirachi. And then we get another divergence in the Alolan Muck matchup. Normal Alakazam appears to be tying with it, but Shadow Alakazam is losing. Now if you look at this matchup in particular, you can see 12 damage. That doesn't look like a lot of wiggle room. It's not just 1 HP like it was with Bronzong. However, you can hit breakpoints with this Alakazam in this matchup by getting a higher attack stat. And if you go for that higher attack stat Shadow Alakazam, the matchup is now a draw. So you just turned a loss into a draw. And the draw is happening on the fast move, so a simultaneous knockout, which could put you in a better position than you would be in if you were to just straight up lose. And then finally, we have something very interesting I want to point out to you guys, and that's Umbreon here. You can see here it's got 496, which is awfully close to 500. So if the scales were to be tipped a little bit more into Shadow Alakazam's favor here, maybe it could beat Umbreon. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that there is an attack breakpoint for Shadow Alakazam, so that maybe could become a definitely. Clicking on that breakpoint and running the simulation, we can see that Shadow Alakazam is now beating Umbreon. Something that we never thought Alakazam would ever be able to do without landing a Focus Blast or something. It doesn't need to land a Focus Blast, it just needs to beat the snot out of it with its counter damage, taking out the Umbreon. And if you really want to get big brained about it, with the perfect PvP IVs, you can see we are losing by 6 damage. If you were to pull your punches per se and not throw any charge moves, I think that'd also be a route to victory. As you can tell, you could get away with probably throwing at least 1 fire punch to bait a shield and just clean out the fight without even having to worry about that attack break point. So Shadow Alakazam definitely has it going on. Question is, can the normal form pick this up? No, the normal form cannot pick this up. Normal form doesn't even get a break point. Dang. So I don't know about you guys, but that's basically all the evidence I need to tell that Alakazam here with counter is going to be a boss. And the Shadow Alakazam very likely going to be an even bigger boss for Great League PvP. Now, as far as the general overall Great League meta goes, I feel like the 2 shield situation that Alakazam loses in more often than not is going to hold it back a lot from the general Great League, like the open meta, the Go Battle League type meta. But for people that are involved with Silph Cups, yeah, Alakazam, especially that Shadow Alakazam, is something that you're really going to want to hunt down for this community day. Now, one thing that definitely holds Shadow Alakazam back right now is the fact that we cannot TM its frustration away. You have to unlock the secondary charge move, and then you're stuck with, what, Fire Punch and frustration, Shadow Ball and frustration. Neither of that sounds good. But if you prepare that Shadow Alakazam now, the next time that there is a Team Rocket TM event or whatever, well then you can bring your Shadow Alakazam into glory. Until then, you can definitely kick it with the regular Counter Alakazam and be just fine. although you will be missing out on those few extra matchups. And of course, this Alakazam counter thing isn't 100% confirmed yet. It is just from the translation of the German announcement. Normally these translations have revealed things in the past that have been true, but the possibility always remains that it might not be counters. So don't go too crazy with this information just yet. Let's wait for the official global Niantic actually trying to let us know announcement before we get too crazy, right? At any rate, if you got questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you aren't aware, Swagman has a Patreon. If you'd like to help support the Swagman, check it out. And then additionally, yeah, that's it. I thought there was a breakpoint, there isn't.